Let's talk pregnancy after loss because we are officially pregnant and expecting baby number 4. I knew this was coming, but it's also hard to believe because we waited a while for this and we really wanted this, and it was a big lesson in surrender and learning how to release and let go and surrender internally, which was very challenging after loss. If you heard my story before where we lost our 3rd baby Sterling to Group B strep when he was only 20 hours old, you also heard me say that I pretty quickly jumped to hope for the next baby. It was a big part of my coping process, but also I think it's just natural as a mom when you've lost a baby to want your arms filled again. Not that it replaces them or anything like that, but you just want your arms filled because you had a baby and you thought your arms were going to be filled and then they weren't. And so there's just a part of you that just longs for that and aches for that. Our trying to conceive journey was, I don't know, it wasn't even totally trying to conceive because we've never had to try before. Shortly after he died, we started trying, as in just paying attention to my cycle and when was a good time, right? To time conception, to time intercourse. And that wasn't happening. And so, or it just wasn't happening after that. So I started to go get my labs done to check my Hashimoto's, to check numbers, to check things like that. Because I was clearly something's off. Something is off with my hormones or something's off with because something's not happening, right? So I started doing blood work. I started trying different supplements, things like that through a naturopath that was okay, you should get on this, you should get on that. We had a couple of we had to redo labs a couple of times because I was on certain supplements at first, which messed up my labs, right? So it was kind of a shot in the dark. It felt with guessing what I needed and stuff like that. But there was nothing definitive that they could find where it was oh, this is why you're not getting pregnant. And Peter even got tested too, and there was nothing for him either, right? Everything was fine. And so we did try a round of Clomid a year after he passed away, and I hated it. I could only do 3 days of it. I did not feel good on it. I didn't do it. I didn't follow through all the way. It made me feel terrible. It gave me horrible side effects, and it didn't work. And then after that, I totally let go and was you know what, I think I'm okay. I'm okay if we don't have another baby. I'm okay with the 2 that we have. I'm okay with the life that we have. And then I had a chemical pregnancy, literally that month. So that was September. And that brought up a whole bunch for me. That brought up a whole lot of grief and being super attached to it again and needing it and wanting it type thing. But it was not a desire from a clear place. It was a desire from a need. I needed this and I needed to make it happen and I was going to make it happen. And that was all I thought about, right? And so that took a while to work through again and to get to a place of being able to let it go. And everyone says, let it go, you'll get pregnant when you let it go. But you can't force yourself to let it go, and you can't force yourself to get to that place. And I knew I couldn't force myself. I knew my trying was getting in the way, but at the same time, I didn't think it was preventing, because you can let it go and still try things, right? But what I wasn't ready for, and what I finally became ready for the beginning of December, which is when we got pregnant. I was sitting in the sauna one day, I remember this so clearly, and I was meditating and I asked myself, what do you want? And I immediately tried to come up with a business goal or a money goal or something like that for the month, because I was oh, I shouldn't focus on getting pregnant because, everyone says don't focus on it. And then I stopped myself and I was what if you actually let yourself admit what you actually want, which is a baby? What if you let that be the goal? But also, this is gonna happen, because I knew, no one could tell me otherwise. I knew it would happen eventually. I could see it, I could see our family with more kids. I could see it down the road. It's already happened before. I could see it happen again, right? All of that. So I was if you know it's gonna happen and that's your desire, what would happen if you chose to let go of when or how, and just let your knowing be enough. Just let your certainty of it happening and your certainty of your desire, like let yourself actually desire this fully and let yourself be certain of it happening, but then that's it. Like you don't need to know how, you don't need to know when, you don't need it to happen at a certain time. Like that's it, let it go. Like let the rest of it go. And I could finally feel the release in my body because it brought up fears that I felt and saw, and I like worked them through my body in that meditation, right? And I could feel the surrender in my body. I could feel the peace. I could feel the final piece of like, okay, like I can do this. I can let myself want it and I can be certain, but I can totally let go of the rest. And I remember that moment so clearly because I could feel it and I was like, okay. And then by 10 days before Christmas, we got our positive. And I was like, and there it is. That's how this is done. That's always how it's done. And obviously, like, there are things we can do. There are things we can be proactive in with our health. There are things we can be proactive in getting answers. There are things we can be proactive in taking different paths to get there. But ultimately, for me, it's always about what I believe I have to do in order to have it. And it's always about being unattached to the outcome. And so I just finally got to the point where I was ready for that. That's not to say that there weren't fears or anxiety that came up the first couple of weeks, especially after we got that positive. Probably just after having a chemical pregnancy and then also the loss before that. You feel like almost scared to get your hopes up, but at the same time, this baby has felt so certain and so solid to me. Like, I know this baby's not going anywhere. It's felt surprisingly more peaceful than you would think. I've had moments of being anxious or moments of being scared. I've had fears that I've never had before in any of my other pregnancies. Never had it before. But also, considering what I've been through, I've been surprisingly peaceful, and that's just the baby. Like last time when I was pregnant, my emotions were all over the place. It was a very intense pregnancy. It was a very emotional pregnancy. It was a very heavy pregnancy. Like I felt heavy in my body physically. This time around, it's complete opposite. It's been my easiest pregnancy. I have energy, I'm not sick. I feel great. I feel peaceful. I was emotional at first. I was anxious at first, but all of that really leveled out and I feel surprisingly peaceful. So I'm really trying to let myself rest in that and sit in that. And we have been coming up with like a plan of what feels good to us as far as our loss last time goes and what we want to do differently. And we've been interviewing different types of practitioners and figuring out what that's going to look like for us. And I think we're actually going to do something completely custom for us. And that's the most beautiful thing this time around, is really giving myself permission to listen to me and what I want and what I feel, and hiring people for me instead of being like, oh, I have to go listen to the doctor, right? Because that didn't work last time. So I'm listening to, what do I want? What's the kind of support that I want? What's the experience that I want? And then how do I get to curate that? Because ultimately the practitioners that you work with, you hire them to work for you. And so I'm reminding myself of that, and I'm really letting myself go with that. I think this pregnancy, it's not bringing up a lot of like grief as far as Sterling goes. I don't feel guilty. I don't feel wrong. I just feel really excited, and I feel really blessed and peaceful and like so certain that this is our path. And like the place that I'm in this time starting this pregnancy is so different than how I started his. I'm in such a good place this time around, even compared to last time, and I hadn't had a loss yet. Just in general, right? With how our home is and how my relationship with my kids is and how Peter and I are and how my business is, right? And it's interesting to note because Peter's business is really busy right now. But I still feel like I'm in so much more of a clear, peaceful, confident, capable state and it's really translating to everything else. And so that's been really cool to experience. It's been like a big gift. I'm sure this could be a completely different experience, but so far it's felt like just a really big gift. It feels like redemption, and that's really special. So that's our journey on getting to baby number 4, and I'm excited to take you along for the rest of it. I'm going to share weekly updates for you, and we get to walk this healing, redemptive road together. So I hope you like this. Go ahead and hit subscribe. I'll see you back on the channel next week for our first updates. So excited. Okay, have a beautiful day.